So today we are going to study the living world. Without skipping the video, watch the entire video. This video is going to help you for your NEET exams to study your biology. Whenever you don't feel like reading the NCERT, if you don't have interest in reading the NCERT because it contains a lot of things, and if it is difficult for you, you don't have interest while studying for it, you can come to my videos and listen to the video, and it will be like a revision for you, and you will also learn something new from the video. So definitely watch the entire video. So now I'm going to start without wasting any time. So you're going to study about whom? Ernest Mayr. Okay, so first, so Ernest Mayr was born on 5th July 1904 in which place? In Kempten, that is in Germany, and he was an Harvard University evolutionary biologist. Evolutionary biologist means a person who studies about evolutionary relationships of organisms, and he was called the Darwin of 20th century. Darwin was a very great personality, so he had given many theories, right? So in 20th century, the Darwin was Ernest Mayr. He's the 20th century evolutionary biologist. He's one of the 100 greatest scientists of all time, and Mayr joined the Faculty of Arts and Sciences in which year? 1953, and he retired in 1975, and he got the title Alexander Agassiz Professor of Zoology Emeritus. And throughout his nearly 80-year career in research spanned around ornithology. So his research was around ornithology, which is study of birds. Ornithology is nothing but study of birds. Okay, and zoo geography, and zoo means animals, geography of animals, and evolution, systematics, that is naming of organisms, classification of organisms, and history and philosophy of biology. And he single-handedly, like one man army, he made the origin of species, diversity, and the central question of evolutionary biology. So he made that as a question, very important question, that is origin of species, diversity, about the diversity, so many different kinds of species. He made that as very important question for evolutionary biology, and that it is today. And he also pioneered the currently accepted species. So he was the one who pioneered, means he also was involved in that, in the currently accepted definition of biological definition of species. What is species? So he gave the definition, and Mayr is awarded 3 prizes. So he has got 3 prizes, and these 3 prizes are only called as triple crown of biology. So what are the three prizes? You must know. 3 prizes are Balzan Prize in 1983, International Prize for Biology in 1994, and which prize did he get? And he got the Crafoord Prize in 1999, and so these are the 3 prizes. Okay, International Prize, Balzan Prize, and the Crafoord Prize. These 3 prizes he has got, and in 1999, and Mayr died at the age of 100. So he lived for 100 years, and he died at the age of 2004. So Ernest Mayr lived from 1904 to 2004. Okay, so I'm going to start the chapter, the living world. So all of you know that how beautiful is the living world. It's very beautiful, right? It has wide range of living types, amazing, extraordinary habitats which we find in living organisms. Be it cold mountains, we find the organisms in cold mountains, deciduous forest, oceans, freshwater lakes, deserts and hot springs. All these leave us speechless. So watching so many things, we get amazed, right? So most of us go for trips and all to different places. So after your examination, once you clear your exam, you definitely can go and visit different kinds of places. So once you see so many mountains, so many lakes, you will definitely get amazed that how beautiful our world is, right? So the beauty of a galloping horse, you can see a horse, migrating birds. So birds migrate from one place to other, right? From one region, they travel so far. So if you see all those, you will definitely be speechless. And valley of flowers, attacking sharks are there. All these evoke a sense of wonder. So we have to wonder. We get so much excited when we see all those things. You will definitely love it. So definitely after your NEET, once you clear your examination, you can definitely go and visit different places. Then ecological conflict and cooperation among members of a population and among populations of community. So in a community there are so many populations, and there are members in a population. So even the molecular traffic inside a cell, inside one cell, inside a cell, there is so much going on. From here something goes on, from here something is manufactured. So inside the nucleus something is made, it is sent to different parts. All that you will be studying about the DNA, protein, synthesis of amino acids. So much takes place inside a cell. So there is so much of molecular traffic, means molecules move from here and there inside a cell. All that makes us to think, what is life? What is life? What indeed is life? So this question has 2 implicit answers within it. The first is the technical one. So after, when you get the question what life is, what is life, when you get that question in your mind, you will definitely have 2 questions: what is living and what is non-living. And the second question is philosophical one, that is what is the purpose of the life. So second question is the philosophical question, that is what is the purpose of life. So when you think about life, you first have a doubt, what is life and what is the purpose of life. purpose of life? These are the two questions. We cannot answer this purpose question. We will definitely answer the life question, because the second purpose question is a philosophical one. You can definitely read Bhagavad Gita for that. It's a very important book which answers this question. The purpose of the life question is answered in the Bhagavad Gita or any spiritual books. Or you can definitely, if you want help, if you don't know to read the Bhagavad Gita, you can go and you can watch my Gita Infinity channel. I have a YouTube channel. I will definitely give the link also below if you want to read Bhagavad Gita. Daily in the mornings you can watch. I just put shorts, Bhagavad Gita shorts in 1 minute, less than a minute. You will know daily one video you can watch. Okay. So now let's go for what is living. So what is living? So when we try to define the word living, we are looking for characteristics that living organisms are showing. So they are growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment, mount suitable response. All these come in our mind, right? Whenever somebody talks about living, if I ask you what is the meaning of living, you will definitely tell me, sir, living means organisms which reproduce are called living, organisms which grow are called living. So all these are your meanings of living, right? You may ask me, what is this stupid concept that we are studying, living and non-living? We studied it in our childhood. When we were young, we learnt what is living and non-living. Why should we learn it in our 11th standard? So your answer is wrong. Until now, whatever you learnt about living and non-living is wrong. Why it is wrong? So you may tell me that living organisms, how do you tell me the difference between living and non-living? You may tell that living organisms are the ones which grow, right? But is it true? Does everything that grow considered as living thing? No, because even the sand grows. If you go into a desert, the sand mounds there grow. Even rocks grow. Because of accumulation, you can see the size of the rocks becoming big. So non-living things also may grow sometimes. So how do you consider that completely as a characteristic of living organism? Can you tell anything is living or non-living just by seeing it grow? No, right? Then some of you may definitely tell me that reproduction is a quality of growth. You may tell me living organisms reproduce. So everything that reproduces is living. You may tell me, right? But what about the ones which do not reproduce? So many couples you might have seen, they don't have kids, right? So many human beings, they don't have kids. They are unable to reproduce because of their defects in reproductive system. They may not able to be reproduce. And there are so many honeybees, they don't reproduce. So how do you define? Do you call them non-living? Something that doesn't reproduce, do you call them non-living? No, right? So reproduction cannot be a method by which you tell something is living or non-living. So let's study the chapter to know what is actually living and what is the actual definition of living. So growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment, mount a suitable response, all these come to your mind when you think of living. So you can add some more features like metabolism, ability to self-replicate, self-organize, interact, and emergence to the list. Don't worry, I will tell you actually. So most of the people tell all living organisms grow. So growth is one characteristic. Increase in mass, increase in number of individuals are characteristics of growth. A multicellular organism grows by cell division. In plants, growth is observed from cell division, occurs continuously throughout their lifespan. In plants grow continuously throughout their life, right? We don't grow continuously. We stop growing after a certain age, right? So most of you might be wondering, why is my height not growing? Why am I not becoming taller and taller and taller? Right? So the reason for that is we stop growing after a certain age, and but still cell division occurs in our body. Okay, in animals, growth is seen only up to a certain age. However, the cell division takes place throughout our life. When our tissues get hurt, whenever you get hurt, even today if you get injured, when you get hurt, your hurt gets healed, right? You get very fast cure. The next, after 2-3 days, if you see, you will not find your hurt. So the reason for that is cell division keeps on occurring, and one can easily observe these in vitro cultures by simply counting the number of cells under the microscope. You can see unicellular organisms. You can take some unicellular organism, like I can take one bacteria and I can see it in the microscope in a culture. After 2 days, if I see, after some time if I see, I will find 2 bacteria, and then if I see, I will have 4 bacteria. So like that it keeps on multiplying. You can count the cells in vitro. In vitro means what? In vitro means in test tube. So basically it's a very important word. In vitro means inside test tube. Okay, and in vivo inside inside body. Okay, inside human body if you're studying something, inside a body if you're studying something, it is called in vivo, and inside test tube if you're studying something, it is called in vitro. Okay, in majority of higher plants and animals, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive events. Exclusive means what? Can you tell that growing and reproducing is same? But in living organisms you can tell it's same. In unicellular organisms you can say same. So this is a bacteria, one bacteria becomes two. This is nothing but reproduction only, right? Growth, that is the meaning of growth in a bacteria. One bacteria becoming two, two becoming four. So for unicellular organisms, growth is equal to reproduction. For unicellular organisms, growth is equal to reproduction. But for multicellular, it is not the same thing. Growth is not equal to reproduction. They are exclusive events. Growth is different, reproduction is different, right? So next, what do you have? Next you have increase in body mass is considered as growth. When our body's mass increases, when we become fat, healthier, when we grow taller, that is called growth. And in non-living objects also grow. If you see non-living objects, they also grow. If you take body mass as criteria for growth, like mountains, boulders, sand moles also grow. So do you consider growth as a characteristic of living thing? So no, growth cannot be considered as a defining property of living organisms, because even non-living things grow. Okay, but the growth is from inside. You know that living organisms have growth from inside, so in that way you can tell it is growing, but you cannot actually take it as a growing characteristic. Next, reproduction. Reproduction is a characteristic of living organism. It's a characteristic, both are characteristic. Okay, so basically if you talk about growth and reproduction, both are characteristic of living organisms, but they are not a defining property. They are not defining property. You can't tell it as a definition. You can tell that that is a character. Every living organism has those characters, but you can't rely on that. It's not a definition, so it's not a defining property. Okay, so multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to production of progeny similar to the parent. Okay, so next, what do you have? Next you have that is progeny possesses more or less similar features to that of parents, right? Reproduction, progeny is produced, that is babies are produced, which have features more or less that is similar to the parents. And when we talk about this, we are talking about sexual reproduction. In the sexual reproduction, they are similar to the parent, right? The kids are similar to both the parents. And organisms reproduce by asexual means also, like fungi multiply and spread easily because of millions of spores that they produce. And in lower organisms like yeast and hydra, you observe what? Budding. Budding means what? There is one organism, on top of that a bud is produced. This bud gets separated from here and it starts to grow into a new organism. Okay, so that is called the process of budding. Okay, next you also have they produce by millions of spores also. So spores means what? Small spores are produced by a plant. So if this is one plant, it produces multiple spores. These spores, when they fall, they grow into new plant. Okay, that's how it is happening. And planaria, how do you observe? True regeneration you observe in planaria. So a fragmented organism regenerates lost part of the body and becomes whole. So what is the difference between true regeneration and budding? So if you see a plant, so if this is a plant, a small bud grows on this plant, and this bud gets separated from the plant and it grows into a new plant. This is called budding. Budding. Okay, but what happens in true regeneration? If this is one organism, this organism is broken. The part of organism only breaks, and this broken part grows into new. So here there is some extra growth on top of this organism. First some extra growth happens, that growth gets broken. Here the plant, nothing extra grows, the plant's body part only breaks and it grows into a new organism. That's called true regeneration. So that is observed in planaria, flatworms. So body part of a flatworm breaks. Okay, so part of body of a flatworm breaks. And then for example, if you have hand, in your hand, if one more new finger grows, you have 5 fingers normally, a new finger grows on your hand, 6 finger, and that new finger breaks down and it grows into a new organism. So a new human being is formed from that finger. So what will you call that? That will be budding, definitely, because you don't have 6 fingers, one extra finger grew on top of you. That's nothing but bud, a small bud kind of structure grew on your body. But true regeneration means now a part of your finger, you have 5 fingers, one of your finger only broke and now you are left with only 4 fingers, but that new finger grew into a new organism. So just as simple, just to explain you, I just told you. So this happens in planaria. And where does budding happen? Budding was happening in yeast and hydra. Okay, and fungi, millions of asexual spores they were producing. And the fungi, filamentous algae, protonema of mosses, all multiply by fragmentation. All the three. Okay, so fragmentation is seen in all the three. fungi, filamentous algae, and protonium of mosses. And when it comes to unicellular organisms like bacteria, algae, amoeba, reproduction is same as growth. I told you before only, that is increase in number of cells. So it's same when it comes to this one. And you have already defined growth as equivalent to increased number of cells mass. Hence, we notice that single cell organisms, it's not clear about the word growth and reproduction in single cell organisms. Also, there are many organisms that do not reproduce, like mules, sterile worker bees, infertile human couples. So, these are the reasons why you cannot take reproduction as a defining character. Reproduction cannot be taken as a defining character. So now you have another characteristic which is called metabolism. Metabolism means what? All living organisms are made up of chemicals, right? Our entire body is made up of chemicals, and these chemicals are small, big, all are defining to various classes, sizes, functions, etc. And they are made continuously into the body. These chemicals are continuously made inside the body. So then and these are called biomolecules. Okay, the biomolecules are there, so many chemicals are there in our body. So conversion of one chemical to another takes place, chemical reactions take place, and these chemical reactions are called metabolic reactions. So if there is a compound A, chemical A, it converts into chemical B inside the living thing. This is living organism. Inside living organism, it is called metabolic reaction. And there are thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside living organisms. Okay, so that's organism. So they can be unicellular organisms also, and they can be multicellular organisms also. In all of them, there are so many metabolic reactions taking place. So all plants, animals, fungi, microbes all exhibit metabolism, and the total of all the chemical reactions occurring inside the body is only called as metabolism. I told you, right? Chemical reaction which is occurring inside the body. So all the chemical reactions occurring inside the body is overall called metabolism, and there is no non-living organism which exhibits metabolism. No non-living thing can show no metabolism. So can you take metabolic reaction as a defining characteristic? Yes, definitely, because no non-living object shows metabolism, right? So you can show metabolic reactions outside the body in cell-free system. You can definitely show them outside the cell also. An isolated metabolic reaction outside the body of an organism can be performed in a test tube, but that reaction is neither living nor non-living. You can't tell whether that reaction is living or non-living. That's why metabolism is defining property of living organisms without any exception. There is no exception. You will not find any exception. And isolated metabolic reactions in vitro are not living, not so inside a test tube, that cannot be called living nor non-living. It's not living, it's not non-living also. You cannot call them as any of these. So that is the reason why you can very freely you can tell metabolism is a defining feature. And like that only, cellular organization of a body is also a defining feature of life forms. So our cells are organized so nicely inside the body, right? And they communicate among themselves with chemicals. So that is also a defining feature of living organisms. And mostly technically a complicated feature of all living organisms is the ability to sense the surrounding, right? You can feel your surrounding. Even plants also respond to the surrounding. So we sense our environment through our sense organs. Plants also respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, and other organisms, pollutants, etc. All organisms from prokaryotic organisms means basic organisms like bacteria and all, small single cell organisms, to the most complex eukaryotes, biggest eukaryotes like us, human beings, or any organisms, living organisms. Like animals and all sense and respond to the environmental cues. Everybody responds to environment, right? So you respond to fire, you respond to every kind, you respond to water. So we respond to everything. We respond to sunlight. We sleep in the night when there is dark, we get up in the morning. Like that only plants also respond to sunlight. They bend towards sunlight, right? So you can see seasonal breeders, the reproduction in seasonal breeders, photoperiod. So depending on light, they reproduce. The seasonal breeders, only in some particular seasons they reproduce. They are called seasonal breeders in both plants and animals. And all organisms can handle chemicals entering their body. All the organisms can handle chemical entering their body, and all organisms are therefore the food. Basically, we eat so much of food, right? Food is nothing but chemicals only. Food contains different kinds of chemicals to give us energy, what we contain. So we respond to food, we respond to other chemicals also entering our body. So we take medicines and all, we respond to those medicines. So different things are there. We respond to chemicals entering our body, and all organisms are aware of their surrounding. Human being is the only organism, remember, we are the only organism that is aware of himself. Other organisms also have consciousness. All living organisms have consciousness, but they are not aware of themselves. They don't know what is happening inside their body, inside them. But human being is the only one who is self-conscious. who shows self-consciousness. Consciousness therefore becomes the defining property of living organisms. And when it comes to human beings, it is most complicated, it's most difficult to define a living state. Why? Because we observe patients lying in coma also in hospitals. So we don't know whether they are living or dead because they are not conscious, right? So consciousness is a property of living organisms, right? But patients in coma, they are not conscious, so they don't have any self-consciousness also. They are brain dead. How do you define whether these organisms are living or non-living? So what I would like to tell is, yes, they are living because their body is responding to medicines, right? Their body is responding to medicines and machines. They are still responding, their body is still responding to machines and all, and in their body cells and all are still working, so they are considered living. So in higher classes you will be learning about you will come to know about all living phenomena are due to underlying interactions. You will come to know that because of interaction between different cells and other things, you consider something as living or dead. And properties of tissues are not present in the constituent cells. So 2-3 cells together function, so a group of cells function together and they form a tissue. And what cells do alone, a tissue doesn't do it. Tissue does something different. So a tissue can do it because of interaction among the constituent cells. Similarly, properties of cellular organisms is not present in molecular constituents of the organelle and arise as a result of interactions among the intercellular components, intermolecular components present in the organelle, and the interactions result in emergent properties and at higher level of organization. This phenomenon is true hierarchy and complexity in all levels. Therefore, we can say that living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, and self-regulating interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. And biology is what is biology? Biology is the story of life on earth. Biology is the story of life on earth, and it is the story of evolution of living organisms on earth. All living organisms, be it present, past, and future, are all linked to one another by sharing of common genetic material, but to varying degrees. What is diversity in living world? You might have seen so many large variety of organisms, being potted plants, insects, birds, pets, or other organisms and plants. There are several kind of organisms that you cannot see with the naked eye, but all are around you and increase in size, and all that are varying characteristics of living organisms. Obviously, you were not, if you had to go to a dense forest, you would definitely see much greater number, right? If you go to a dense forest, you will see more number of organisms. So next, you have different kinds of organisms in dense forest. If you go, each kind of plant animal that you see represents a species. Each kind of plant animal that you see represents a species. Each one of us is a species, and total number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. So this is a very important number, and this refers to the biodiversity, the number and types of organisms present on earth. We should remember that we explore new areas, old ones we are continuously being identified. So there are 1.7 to 1.8 million species that are known and described. Okay, and as we stated earlier, millions of plants and animals are there in the world. We know the plants and animals by their area and local names. We know them by their local names. The local names vary from place to place. Even within a country, the local names vary, and we recognize that all these is story. Next, you have nomenclature. What is nomenclature? So we need to give a standard name. We have so many local names. You may call by one name, Hindi name, Kannada name. So many languages are there in world. Tamil, Telugu, Odisha. Different places people give different names, but you need to give a standard name so that scientists can identify it, right? So that is called a nomenclature, giving same name all over the world. And this nomenclature is only possible when organisms are described correctly. Only if you describe them correctly, if you know correctly how the organism looks, what is the difference between one organism and another organism, then you can define them correctly. And this process only is called identification. Identifying. First you need to identify, right, which organism that is. Then you can give it a name. And in order to facilitate the study and number, scientists have established different procedures to give scientific name. Known organism. This is acceptable by biologists all over the world. All biologists should accept it. And for plants, scientific names are based on agreed principle and criteria which are provided in ICBN. Okay, International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. In ICBN, there are rules for giving names for plants, and for animals, you have ICZN, International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. That is ICZN. And scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name, and it can be understood by people around the world, and all give the same name, and they ensure that the name has not been used by any particular other organism. Biologists follow universally accepted principles to provide scientific names to organisms. Each name has two components. So one, the nomenclature, when you name the organism, you name the organism by two names. Two parts of the name are there. One is called the generic name, and another part of the name is specific epithet. Okay, So this S should be small actually. Specific epithet. Generic name starts with a capital letter and specific epithet. Both are underlined also. You will learn the rules basically. So there are two parts: generic name and specific epithet. And this system provides with two names. And that is why it is called binomial nomenclature, because there are two parts, right? So generic and specific epithet, right? So there are two names, and the naming is given by Carolus Linnaeus. Who gave the system of naming? Carolus Linnaeus. And it is followed by biologists all over the world, and the system format is convenient. And we will take the example of mango. So how do you represent mango? Mango is known as Mangifera indica. Mangifera indica. So how do you, these are the two names of mango, okay? Mangifera, see, you can see it starts with capital letter, and I indica, the second name, starts with a small letter, and I have underlined both of them because I have written them by hand. If it is printed, it will be printed in italics. So this is how, this is the generic name and this is the specific epithet, okay? So like this, Mangifera indica means mango. You go to any part of the world and tell them Mangifera indica, they will give you a mango. So you can see here, indica is the genus, or Mangifera is the genus, while indica is the species. Specific epithet. So biological names are written in Latin. They are generally in Latin, and they are written in italics. They are printed in italics. They are Latinized or derived from Latin, irrespective of their origin. And then you also have the first word in biological name represents the genus, while the second component denotes the specific epithet. Both the words are handwritten. They are separately underlined. So whenever you write by hand, you need to underline, or you need to print in italics to derive Latin origin. The first word denoting the genus starts with a capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with a small letter. It can be illustrated by the name of Mangifera indica. A name of the author appears after the specific epithet, like Mangifera indica Linn. So Linn means Linnaeus gave the name. He was the one who identified it first, or to describe the author. First described by Linnaeus, so we write Linn. And since it's nearly impossible to study all living organisms, it's necessary to devise some means to make this possible. And the process is called classification. So classification means the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters and groups. So for example, animals, dogs, cats, insects, all these. And we associate characteristics with organisms. And imagine when you see or think of a dog. What do you imagine when you see or think of a dog? You imagine that it has 4 legs, a tail, right? So you see dogs only when you think of dogs. You will not think of cat. And now if I say you think of Alsatians, what will you think about? You will definitely think about a specific kind of mammal. And of course, animals extend ears, all these are there. So dogs, cat, mammals, etc. are convenient categories. And the scientific term of these categories is called taxa. Here are most taxa that you can define. So plants is a form of taxa. Wheat is also a form of taxa. Dogs are taxa. So all that. And based on characteristic, so based on characteristic, you told it is a dog or it is an Alsatian, whatever you tell. So different kinds of taxa are there, right? So this process is called classification. Based on characteristic, they are classified into different taxa organism. So this is called taxonomy, like where the organism lies in, which category it lies in, that is called classification. External and internal structure along with structure of development cell using, and the process is ecological information of organisms are essential to form modern taxonomic studies. Hence, classification, identification, and nomenclature. So, characterization, identification, classification, nomenclature. Remember, these are the 4 steps. Okay, this is how you are the basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. It is human beings have always been doing it from before. We classify things differently, and human beings. Human beings were since long interested in knowing about the organism, but diversity, but relationships among them also, and this branch of study is referred to as systematics. The word systematics is derived from the Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms, and Linnaeus used the word systema naturae in his title publication. The scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification also. So in account evolutionary relationships also we should take how the organisms evolved. That also we need to take into account. Now we take that also into account. Next, what are taxonomic categories? Taxonomic category is, since the category is part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it's called a taxonomic category, and all the categories constitute a taxonomic hierarchy. Okay, so each step. See, classification is not a single step. It involves hierarchy, different steps it involves, and each step is called rank or category, and category is a part of taxonomic arrangement, and this is called taxonomic category. All that you know. And taxon, what is taxon? Each unit of classification is called a taxon. Taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be stated by an example. So insects are organisms which share features like 3 pairs of jointed legs. They have 3 pairs, 6 legs they have, right? It means insects are recognizable by concrete objects which can be classified. Thus we were given a rank or category. Can you name any such group of organisms? Remember, the group's category further denotes a rank. Each rank is or taxon in fact represents a unit of classification. These taxonomic groups are distinct morphological biological entities are not merely morphological aggregates. So what are taxonomic studies? It's led to development of common categories known as kingdom, phylum, division, class, order, family, genus, species. So this is how you remember, okay? Kingdom, phylum or division, for we call division for plants and phylum for animals, okay? So you have kingdom, phylum or division, class, order, family, genus and species. This is the order in which they are there organisms into various categories. So first we'll study about species. What is species first? Taxonomic categories consider organisms with fundamental similarities as species. One should be able to distinguish this morphologically, like Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum, potato, Panthera leo is lion. All these three names, Indicum, tuberosum, leo, all these are specific epithet, while the first words are Mangifera, Solanum, Panthera are genera and represents another higher level of taxonomic category. So these small leo and indica, all these are nothing but species, okay, different species of organism. For example, Panthera has specific epithet called Tigris, Solanum includes nigrum and melangina. So in Solanum you have nigrum and melangina also, and human beings are there. For example, they are the species sapiens. So that's why Homo sapiens is the name of human beings, binomial nomenclature. Next you have genus. Genus is a group of related species with merely more characteristics. So many species come under that. So like Panthera pardus and Panthera tigris, these are the two species. Lion, leopard, tiger, all these are there. Three, right? So potato and brinjal are two different species which belong to Solanum. So that's what brinjal is melangina and potato is tuberosum. Solanum tuberosum, Solanum melangina. Okay, so and like that you have different kinds of genus under that, and you have another family which is cats also. So next we will be studying about families are characterized by both vegetative and reproductive characteristics, and they're different, like Solanum, Petunia and Dhatura are placed in family Solanaceae. Among animals, for example, genus Panthera comprises of lion, tiger, leopard, all these are put in a genus. Felis cats family, Felis is in the family Felidae. Okay, cats is in the family Felidae, and dog is in the family dog is in a different family, Canidae. Okay, Felidae and Canidae respectively. Next you are studying about order. You have studied about higher category, species, genus, families. You have studied based on similar characters. Now you also have something called order. Identified order is higher category, and it is assemblage of families. Different families you put together into an order. So similar characteristic or less number of genera in the family. Families like Convallaceae, Solanaceae are included. Convallaceae and Solanaceae family are put in the order polynomials, mainly based on floral characteristics. And the animals carnivora includes families Felidae and Canidae. So Felidae and Canidae family is put in the order carnivora. Next you have class. What is class? This is category of like for example primata, monkey, gorilla, gibbon, all are placed in class Mammalia. So Mammalia is the class, and carnivora includes lion, tiger, so tiger, dog, cat, all these all are in mammals also. Next phylum. What is phylum? Fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, along with different mammals constitute higher category called phylum. So phylum means phylum chordata is a phylum, for example. Okay, like that you have different phylum. Chordata means they have a notochord, dorsal, hollow, neural system they have. Next, kingdom. So there are different kingdoms. You put the phylum into different kingdoms. So kingdoms are what? Plant kingdom, animal kingdom, like that. Plant kingdom, animal kingdom, fungi, protista, like that you have different. Next you have taxonomical aids. It's a very important concept. Taxonomical aids means what? You use these are something. Aids means any taxonomical aids means these are some equipments like teaching aids. You might have heard of teaching aids, right? Teaching aids means what? Something that you use to teach the students in school. If I get a chart in the school and if I teach you with the help of a chart, that chart will be called a teaching aid, right? Like the taxonomical aids means for taxonomists use particular things like books. They use different kinds of books. They use museums. They go to museums and identify different organisms, and they use some sheets. They have keys, different kinds of things they have. So those things are called taxonomical aids. I will be discussing with you different kinds of taxonomic aids which are used for identification by taxonomists. So one is herbarium. Okay, herbarium means what? Herbarium is a storehouse where you store different plant specimens which are dried and pressed on sheets. On sheets you will have plant specimens in decreasing, lower the tax, they are arranged in decreasing order, and lower the taxon, more the characteristics that are in the taxon share. So higher the category, greater is the difficulty for determining the taxa. So according to universal system of classification in herbarium, they are stored herbarium sheets, and they become a storehouse of for future use. Herbarium sheets also carry label and information. They contain English, local and botanical names. Remember, okay, English, local and botanical names. They also contain family. They contain collector's name, and herbaria also serve as quick referral for taxonomic studies. So you must remember this. They contain English name, local name, botanical names, family, collector's name, etc. Next are botanical gardens. You might have gone to different gardens where different kinds of plants are there, and you will see the names of plants, right? Those are only nothing but botanical gardens. So different kinds of plant species are present here. You have different labels which indicate their botanical and scientific name. And the famous gardens are Kew in England, and Indian Botanical Garden, Howrah, India. So Indian Botanical Garden is in Howrah, Kew is in England, Indian Botanical Garden is in Howrah, India, and National Botanical Research Institute is in Lucknow. So Kew, Indian Botanical Garden, and National Botanical Research Institute in Lucknow, India. So two are in India, which is Howrah in India, and National Botanical Research Institute. These two you should remember. And next, museums. So most of us have gone to museums. They are educational institutes which are set up in schools and colleges also. Museums have collections of different plant and animal specimens to study for reference. Specimens are preserved in containers. You keep them in containers. You keep the specimens in containers or jars in preservative solutions. Plants and animal specimens may also be preserved as dry specimens. Insects are preserved in insect boxes after collecting. So how do you preserve insects? First you collect the insects, then you kill the insects, and then you pin the insects. You will pin the insects to collect them on paper, okay? And next, large animals like birds and mammals, they are usually stuffed. You will stuff them with cotton or something, and you will preserve them using different chemicals and all. And you also have skeletons of big animals and all in this one, museums, right? So zoological parks also are there. Zoological parks are where you have different animals like zoos. Zoo, okay? So children love visiting the zoo, you know that. So zoos are very nice where animals are kept in their natural habitat. You will try to keep the animal in what kind of habitat they like to live in, okay? You try to give them all the plants, food, whatever they require. So what is next? Next is key. Keys and taxonomical aid, which is used for identification of plants and animals based on similarities and dissimilarities. Keys are based on contrasting characters which are generally present in pair. So in pair characteristics are present, and they are called couplet. Couplet means contrasting characters. Two different characters will be present in a pair called a couplet, and it represents the choice made between two opposite options. Two opposite options will be there, that is called present in a pair. It is called a couplet, and this results in acceptance of only one and rejection of other. Each statement. So for example, I can say two legs or four legs. When I talk about legs, I have 2 legs and 4 legs. So 2 legs is and 4 legs, combination of these two are called couplet. Okay, two statements are there. One will be rejected. 4 legs is rejected. There are only 2 legs. Then it is a human being. You definitely know only human beings have 2 legs. The 4 leg option, 2 legs and 4 legs option, two options are couplet. Here 4 legs option gets rejected and 2 legs option is accepted. So that is called like a couplet. Okay, you accept acceptance of one object option, and each statement in the key is called a lead. So there are many such statements like leg, 2 legs, and hair is present, body hair, all that. So different kinds of characteristics are present. So they are called a lead. And separate taxonomic keys are required for taxonomic categories such as family, genus, species. For different categories, you have different keys. And keys are essential, generally analytical in nature. So keys are used for analysis. To identify keys are analytical in nature. So that's it. This much only is your biology. First chapter is completed. So you can watch this video whenever you want to, and definitely do consider subscribing to the channel. And you can watch physics. I have put a lot of physics videos. I have put the entire physics in one part, and chemistry I have put 11th part 1 chemistry I have put. Slowly I will be uploading this one, question and answers for each chapter. Each chapter I will be doing questions. So do consider subscribing the channel. And summary, you can read the summary. So this is the summary. Okay, so thank you for watching the video.